Hello, welcome to the daily English news program on Azərbaycan Television with the major developments of the day. I am your host, İlham Məmmədov. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, İlham and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva viewed the landscaping works carried out in Balakhani settlement of Baku.
President İlham and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva were informed about the improvement works carried out in Balakhani settlement. The works implemented here cover the ancient part and the part associated with the beginning of the 20th century of Balakhani. A lot of work was carried out in the direction of the restoration of historical architectural monuments and improvement of the environmental situation. The park named after Mirza Ekber Sabir was also restored. Shah Shafi Caravanserai in Balakhani was constructed in 1635-1636. This historical monument was constructed from local limestone and was known among population as Khaja Ruhullah Mansion. Balakhani is one of the ancient residential places of Baku. In the beginning of the 20th century, prior to the oil boom, Balakhani boasted a strategic position because it was situated on the Great Silk Road. For many centuries, the place has been a reference point for caravans traveling from China up to Spain. President İlham and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva were informed about the restoration of Hacı Şahla Mosque and Shakir Agha tomb. Hacı Şahla Mosque is an architectural monument of the 14th century. Shakir Agha tomb is considered one of the most precious of the Balakhani monuments. The underground water storage in the settlement was constructed in the 14th century. In order to take water from the underground water storage, one has to descend 40 pillars. In the past, the potable water demand of Balakhani was met through underground water storage. Balakhani's sand hammam is made of 3 parts interconnected with each other. This hammam is also considered as one of the historical monuments of the settlement. It was constructed in the 14th century. At one time, there were 18 hammams in Balakhani settlement. Almost every quarter had its own hammam, and they were distinguished by their names and architectural design. Afterwards, President İlham and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva met with the Balakhani residents. The head of state noted that the new period for Balakhani started and added similar projects will be implemented in other settlements too. The residents of the settlement expressed their gratitude to the head of state and First Lady for the attention shown.
In line with the combat readiness plan for 2020 approved by the Minister of Defense, the missile artillery formations conducted live-fire tactical exercises. The latest statements by the Armenian authorities show that the occupying country is preparing for new provocations. Officials' Yerevan's call for new war for new territories demonstrates that the opposite side has never taken into account the norms of international law. Azerbaijan calls on the world community to respond to all sorts of provocative actions of the Pashinyan government. Concurrently, the enemy receives specific warnings. Apparently, the latest military preparations of Azerbaijan have had an effect. The statement by Armenian Foreign Minister Zohrab Nsakanyan about the absence of an alternative to the peace process indicates that he roughly predicts the fate of the enemy in the event of subversive actions.
We remain committed to a peaceful settlement. It was within the framework of this logic that we were and remain ready to continue the peace process. The Armenian government is ready to resume negotiations on the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict at any time. Armenian Foreign Minister Zohrab Nsakanyan stated, "It's paradoxical that the Armenian officials, resorting to military rhetoric and raving about the occupation of new lands, now appears dove of peace and declared their commitment to negotiations. The minister's statement can be regarded as a move designed for the internal audience of Armenia. According to political analysts, the military slogans of Armenia, which found itself in an even more deplorable socio-economic situation during the pandemic, sound ridiculous and cause a violent reaction in the country itself. Currently, Armenia in fact is cornered in the international arena too. The advancement of 7 conditions by the Prime Minister of Armenia to Azerbaijan in connection with the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and subsequent speculative statement of Zöhrab speak of the deplorable state of the foreign policy doctrine of the occupying country. The statements of President İlham related to the settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and addressed to the Armenian leadership, both on international platforms and in the country itself, showed that the principal position of Azerbaijan remains unchanged.
Ermənistan baş naziri bizə 7 şərt qoyur.
The Prime Minister of Armenia puts forward 7 conditions to us. First of all, who are you to speak to us in the language of conditions? If we wanted to talk to him in the language of conditions, his political life would not last long. I've said that we are rejecting these nonsensical conditions. We have one condition: they must leave our lands unconditionally and completely. This is reflected in the UN Security Council resolutions. In the current situation, the enemy is once again imitating peace negotiations in order to hide the deepening internal crisis. Indeed, the Azerbaijani army, which showed its strength and crushed the Armenian army during the toughest battles, fully issued its military, political and psychological advantage. Official Baku advises the aggressor country to approach the solution of the problem within the framework of international law. Otherwise, Armenia will find itself face to face with the might of a strong Azerbaijan army.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's statements on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict create obstacles to the conflict settlement process. This is the position of the official Moscow, said Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the meeting with the Speaker of Azerbaijan's parliament, Sahiba Gafarova, who is on official visit to Russia. Lavrov added that Russia supports the return of the 5 occupied territories in the settlement process, the deployment of peacekeepers in the area, and the restoration of the transport and communication system. This is the position of the official Moscow. Sahiba Gafarova stressed that Armenian leadership should not forget that in the modern world it is futile and absurd to hide the fact of the occupation of Azerbaijani lands, presenting it under the name of General Security System of Armenia and Artsakh. In particular, right after Armenia caused the battles outside Karabakh, in the Tovuz region of Azerbaijan, it selected important infrastructure facilities for the region as a target. At the meeting, positive thoughts were voiced about the current state of Azerbaijan-Russian relations. 146 cases of the novel coronavirus were registered in Azerbaijan. 173 people recovered and were released home. 2 citizens who had earlier tested positive for the COVID-19 virus died. The overall confirmed cases in Azerbaijan have reached 39,524, with 37,122 recoveries and 580 deaths. The number of active infections is 1,822. To detect new infection cases, 1,073,255 tests have been conducted in Azerbaijan so far, the task force under the Cabinet of Ministers reported. That was all for the day. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.